As you know, this weekend, another flying object was shot down, and this comes after we first saw back in January a suspected Chinese balloon over Montana, and that was shot down earlier this month. Can you give us a timeline of what has happened from then until now?
So on February 2nd, the U.S. government announced that a suspected Chinese surveillance balloon was hovering over Billings, Montana, not far from one of the U.S.'s three nuclear silo fields. We later learned that this balloon was first spotted over Alaska on January 28th. 2 days later, on February 4th, the balloon had traveled from Montana just off the coast of South Carolina, where the U.S. military then destroyed it. About a week later, on Friday, another balloon, what we now know is a balloon, we do not know the origins or if it was in any way connected to the Chinese, was shot down over Alaska. On Saturday, again, what we know is a balloon, but unclear if it's connected to the Chinese or what its origins were, was shot down over Canada, over the Yukon, about 100 miles from the U.S. border. And then on Sunday, another object, it's being described as an octagonal object, was shot down over Lake Huron and fell into Canadian territory. So recovery efforts are still underway at all four sites, but it's been, sort of a hysteria has surrounded this phenomenon because we have never really seen this happen at all, and to have four events within the span of 8 days is definitely unprecedented.
A lot of balloons, a lot of flying objects. I want to know just how unprecedented this is. Does the US government shoot down flying objects a lot or at all? Or is this just getting more hype because of the initial suspected Chinese spy balloon?
So I personally have not heard of this happening, at least in recent years. And the government has said that a total of five what they suspect are Chinese surveillance balloons were detected during Trump's and Biden's presidencies. The three balloons that flew over the US during Trump's presidency were not detected until Biden took office. And the White House said today, National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby gave a press briefing and said that the Biden administration held a daily intelligence briefing. These briefings are again daily, but they held an intelligence briefing dedicated solely to the balloon as early as June 2021. So it really just kind of puts an exclamation point on how far back this phenomenon dates. And since then, the Biden administration has really ramped up its efforts to detect these flying objects. And Kirby said today, one of the reasons that we have seen more of them is naturally because they have enhanced radar capabilities. He has maintained that, the Chinese were not able to glean a ton of information from the suspected suspected spy balloon that was shot down over the Atlantic on February 4th. And the three other objects, again, we don't know their origins or what they were used for, but he did warn that if they enhance their capabilities, they could gather more intelligence that could potentially be a threat to our military operations.
We know China was involved with at least one of these objects. Has China taken any culpability for this?
No, and they have been very critical of the United States for shooting down the balloon over the Atlantic Ocean. They called it an indiscriminate use of force and have maintained that that object was a civilian operated device used for weather research purposes.
What is this doing to U.S. China relations? Because they were icy to begin with. They've been icy pretty much since Biden took presidency. How is this worsening them?
Absolutely. Secretary of State Antony Blinken canceled a planned visit to Beijing. He was scheduled to leave on February 3rd. This is obviously the day before the balloon was taken down over South Carolina. And we heard today that he could possibly, this weekend, there is a conference in Munich of global leaders, that he could possibly meet with a Chinese diplomat, which would be, the first meeting that we know of between U.S. and Chinese government officials since this began.